numbers have since plunged.
Fox's Grady Trimble. Donald Trump is set to campaign this hour in Arizona with candidate. The Harris-Walz campaign with a statement reading in part, for any American out there who is tired of Donald Trump and looking for a new way forward, ours is a campaign for you. Authorities in the western German city of Salingen say 3 people were killed and 4 seriously wounded in an attack at a festival marking the 650th anniversary of the city. The Festival of Diversity began today and was supposed to run through Sunday. A second former Memphis police officer has pled guilty in the death of Tyree Nichols, the black man who was beaten by several officers during a traffic stop last year. Emmett Martin could face 40 years in prison.
The family is relieved that another officer has admitted their role in these heinous acts.
Civil rights attorney Ben Crump. In November, former Memphis officer Desmond Mills Jr. reached a similar deal. America's listening to Fox News.
As a facility tech.
93 WIBC Mobile News. On the level, on the go.
A lack of transparency. I'm Donnie Burgess. Here's what's trending this hour. If you wanted to know what went on during the Delphi murders hearing Friday, well, you're out of luck. The first part of Friday's hearing in Carroll County was off limits to reporters and the public in the first place. The second part, which was supposed to be public, was canceled without explanation. Trial begins October 14th. Full story at WIBC.com. The chief of police in Indianapolis says he's frustrated with violence in the Circle City.
He said that after his officers shot and killed a man during a SWAT raid at a motel. I'm Ryan Hedrick. IMPD Chief Chris Bailey says the man reached for a gun after they served a warrant on his room.
The officers have a job to do. They are tasked with enforcing our laws and reducing violent crime. That is the #1 priority. It's what we hear from our community members every single day.
The shooting happened on Friday morning in Lawrence. Bailey says he wishes that people would just comply with police commands. Ryan Hedrick, 93 WIBC Mobile News.
Indiana Gas up 1 cent from last week, says AAA. The average is $3.40 a gallon. Changes are coming to the campus of Butler University.
Ross Hall will be transformed into a hotel. On Friday, Butler University President James Danko also said that there are other things to look forward to with their Gateway project,
including new housing for upperclassmen, graduate students, and alumni.
He says they're also working on repairing streets and building a new parking, safety, and transit hub. John Herrick, 93 WIBC Mobile News.
On the level, on the go, and on WIBC.com. And now the forecast brought to you by the American Standard Cooling Weather Center.
Just a few passing clouds this evening, low temperatures dropping into the mid-60s and winds out of the southeast. As we move towards Saturday, we're going to be warmer, high temperature near 90 by the afternoon under intervals of clouds and sunshine throughout the day. I'm Wish TV Storm Track 8 meteorologist Junior Sutis for 93 WIBC.
A house or business fire is something you never want to think of. But should it happen, think fast. Think Michaelis. Over 35 years of rebuilding lives and spirits at the same time. No one comes more respected or as fast. Trust the ones the insurance companies trust. Water, storms, fire, and wet basements. Life happens. Michaelis happens to help you through it. Call 844-FIX-INDY. Make it Michaelis.
Garage door problems? Call today for service today. Garage Doors of Indianapolis services all makes of garage doors 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Call today for service today. 875-4577. Call today for service today. Get it fixed right now. Call Garage Doors of Indianapolis at 875-4577 or visit doorstoday.com.
In the morning, call 875-4577.
Service today.
Today.
You've got a Pepto predicament, Beach Bum.
Hey, we're heading down to the beach. You coming?
Yeah, Dad. You coming?
I had a little too much to eat at the resort buffet. I need a minute. Oh, you overdid it. And now your beach vacation is giving you belly waves. Undo it with Pepto.
When you have nausea, heartburn, indigestion, upset stomach, diarrhea.
Pepto chewables provide fast 5-symptom relief so you can get back to making memories.
Let's go, Dad!
When you overdo it, undo it with Pepto. Use as directed. Keep out of reach of children.
Shh. The silence you just heard? You could have used that space to reach your customers. Get your message in front of your customers. Text business to 71007 now. Get results with Radio 1.
Zero Res. 3 rooms of carpet cleaning starting at $119 plus 20% off their duct cleaning too.
388-5141, online at zeroresindy.com.
No Kid Hungry is providing healthy meals and hope to hungry kids so they can build better futures. Learn more at helpnokidhungry.org.
Tony Katz. It's Kendall and Casey. The Amber and Nigel show.
All right, when does your show start? Do we know? I feel like I've been promoting this for 9 years now.
This is the Tony Kinnett Cast on 93 WIBC.
Well, it has certainly been a wild week for those both on the left and right sides of the aisle, for the average American, for those of us who steep ourselves in the political, muddy, nasty slush. This is the Tony Kinnett Cast here on 93 WIBC, the lackluster Democratic National Convention. Now, you might already be throwing up a hand and saying, whoa, Tony, wait a minute. Wasn't the DNC just supposed to be this amazing spectacle? Wasn't it an amazing spectacle? After all, I saw people on CNN, they were in tears. People on MSNBC were just stellarly just in deep bliss. We're talking like pre-opium war docs in Chongqing bliss. It was amazing. It was euphoric. I could not imagine a group of people more high on the wonder and the joy and the star-studded event. Oh, man. From Lil Jon to Pink, Tony. I mean, come on. How can you call that mediocre? Well, because with every single political convention since we have measured modern polling, a candidate has gone into the convention, and then after they have come out the other side of the convention, their poll numbers get a comfortable boost. And this is something that we have decided was going to be the same for all time. However, that is not what happened here. And I said that it wasn't going to happen here. Here is why. The convention has already been going on for 3 weeks. For 3 weeks, everyone walked around in the media talking about how wonderful Kamala was, amazing, her story, her passion, her joy, just, it's amazing she is. Amazing. And then you went to the DNC convention, and people who were on the moderate Democrat side of the aisle said, okay, we've had 3 weeks of talking about how wonderful Kamala is, a good week of how wonderful Tim Walz is. All right, at the convention, we're going to see some policy planks, right? Policy planks are supposed to be common points of interest that all members of that political party make cornerstones of their campaign. So let's hear some of the planks. Why should we vote for Kamala Walz? And then we got to the campaign, we actually got to the convention, and none of it. None of it. A bunch of really soft, mealy words all week on the inside, while on the outside, there were violent riots. And that led to the great appearance by Kamala Giggles Harris herself. After weeks and weeks and weeks of avoiding the media, sprinting away from the media, she finally deigned to make a very major national appearance. She was maybe going to give us some substance. And so I joined on the News on Merritt Street last night, right before her speech. Opposite me on the left side of the aisle was a young lady named Sharon Reed. She's a liberal journalist from the Young Turks and also a show host. And she said that what Kamala Harris needed to do last night was bring it home. She said to bring it home to all the American voters. And I agreed with her. And the reason I agreed with her, because Kamala did need to bring it home. Right now, Kamala is not home with a lot of Americans. Kamala has to bring all of the soft, warm, cuddly feelings home to Americans' wallets, to their neighborhood safety, to the immigration crisis, to the inflation crisis, to the international conflagrations that are currently sweeping the globe and many U.S. citizens in them, to the bevy of other issues, all the way from transportation to logistics that people face on a daily basis. Kamala has to bring it home. Did she do that? Well, no. In fact, all we got was kind of like cotton candy with a few splinters thrown in for magical fun. So there was lots of sugar, fluff, and junk about, my mom always told me that you tie your shoes with both feet. If you didn't actually watch her speech, that was 99% of it. And by the way, I'm all for stories about one's parents. That's super. But maybe that's not what your speech telling people why they should vote for you. Just because I believe in freedom. Now, she did actually mention some of the problems that Americans are facing, but instead she griped at Americans. I couldn't believe this. She actually griped at Americans for noticing that her economy in the administration she is one half of is bad. Here's what that sounded like.
Talking about how terrible everything is. Well, my mother had another lesson she used to teach. Never let anyone tell you who you are. You show them who you are.
Okay. Like, hey, I can't afford food right now. Well, my mom said no one tells me who I am. Okay, that's great. We can't afford food. Well, mom says I show you who I am. Yeah, you're the Vice President of the United States, and you've done nothing to help Americans at all. Now, that was in her entire speech. And, you know, again, the media is talking about how wonderful and amazing she is. I've heard, honestly, I've heard like introductory testimonies at like praise nights at a Pentecostal church that had more substance than that. I'm sorry. Nothing up there was any kind of, and you know, those of you out there who go to the Pentecostal churches, you know what I'm talking about. The first testimony is just like a lot of like weeping and crying and like basically just telling everyone how glad you are to be there. There's like really nothing else in there. That's what I'm talking about. Kamala Harris' speech, nothing to it. Now, this was kind of a contrast and an embarrassing one at that. The entire media was just abuzz all day. There was going to be this huge, amazing guest. We talked about it last night. Oh, who was it going to be? Was it going to be maybe Beyonce? Was it going to be Taylor Swift? Was it going to be George W. Bush? Romney? Was it going to be Jeb Bush? Is it going to be Karl Marx himself? Who's the special guest? Oh my gosh, TMZ reported that it was Beyonce. All of these amazing breaking things. And then it was nobody. It was nobody. There was actually no special guest, and it was a huge, humiliating embarrassment.
In anticipation here and elsewhere that there may be a special guest, I am told by Democrats that Kamala Harris was their guest.
Oh, you mean the person that always speaks the last night of the convention? That's the special surprise. Oh, okay. So it did nothing for the polls. She's still tied with Trump. Coming out, still nothing. Rasmussen with the first major poll coming right out of the convention shows that, yeah, she's still tied with Trump nationally, and she's still behind the swing states. So, there you go. First convention in modern history that didn't give a bump to the candidate. That's how bad it was. And then Robert F. Kennedy Jr., the independent candidate, came out today with a nail-studded baseball bat and took out her kneecaps. He came out today, right after the convention, just chef's kiss of a political move. And then he takes her out by labeling, very accurately, that the Democratic National Convention and Kamala propped up an illegitimate candidate after a botched primary contest. Check this out.
Instead of showing us her substance and character, the DNC and its media organs engineered a surge of popularity for Vice President Harris based upon, well, nothing. No policies, no interviews, no debates, only smoke and mirrors and balloons in a highly produced Chicago circus. There in Chicago, a string of Democratic speakers mentioned Donald Trump 147 times just on the first day. Oh, who needs a policy when you have Trump to hate?
I mean, yeah, that was the entire convention. And my source says I was there watching just every time someone talked. No one talked about what they were excited about Kamala doing. It was just how much they hate Trump. That was it. That was the whole convention. And yes, then he decides to really swing the bat just extra hard. You know, the first bat bruises. The second one swings right through the legs and completely destroys a very serious portion of what the Kamala Harris Walz campaign was expecting. He endorses Donald Trump after dropping out of the race, sort of.
And now, to throw my support to President Trump, the causes were free speech, the war in Ukraine, and the war on our children.
So there you go. He didn't drop out of all of the races, actually. He dropped out of 10 battleground states. So like Pennsylvania, Arizona, Wisconsin. He dropped out of those states because it's very likely those are going to go to Trump. And he stayed on the ballot in other states, presumably either because that was easier or he wants to make a point that perhaps in the background that neither candidate is popular. And this tracks, by the way. Here is, in fact, a member of the Kennedy voting community that said, yeah, they'd throw their support behind Trump if Kennedy dropped out.
I think if he does drop out, I think a lot of people are going to still support him regardless. I feel like at this point, the country's kind of turning into everyone else versus the Democrats.
If he drops out, are you going to be in support of Trump?
Yeah, I would.
I mean, there you go. By the way, it just gets even better. So what does this mean for the campaigns? Because this is a huge shakeup. Well, again, because a lot of Kennedy's supporters who were only there because Biden was at the top of the ticket for the Democrats, those have already gone over to Kamala. So the rest were kind of holdouts who would likely vote for Trump. This obliterates Harris's chances in Pennsylvania. It's downright murderous to her campaign. And it is very, very rough. So what do you do now if you're her campaign? Well, you panic. Here is the campaign manager, Julie Chavez Rodriguez, the campaign manager for the Harris campaign, sprinting away from the press. I mean, just booking it. We're talking run, Forrest, run.
Chavez Rodriguez, will Kamala talk to the press? Will she do a press conference?
There she goes.
Will Kamala do a press conference?
There she goes.
Will she do a press conference?
Nyam. They're terrified. Absolutely terrified. And there's so much more to show you. I mean, other stuff at the convention, the Democrats saying they only have 70 days to act right, and they can be back to being as crazy as they want.
We got 70 days to act right, y'all.
That's right.
Now, after 7 days, we can go back there and crazy.
I mean, just a disaster. Well, up next, we're going to talk a little bit about the outside of the convention, because there's one particular winner who I just want to express my fond thanks for being there. This is the Tony Kinnett Cast here on the Daily Signal, nationally syndicated, first on 93 WIBC.
If you can't get a good night's sleep, let me ask you, are you breathing well? Because if you're snoring or waking up each night with a stuffed up nose, or frustrated with your CPAP mask, the root of your sleep problem lies in your breathing triangle. And if any one of those passages isn't working, you won't sleep well. And there's no mattress, pill, or other gimmick that can fix that. I'm Dr. Madan Kandula. A recipe for a good night's sleep starts with an open airway. Now, there are devices that can help solve snoring or sleep apnea problems. If you walk into a sleep center, know you'll walk out with a CPAP. And you might find other options elsewhere. But the simple truth is, if your nose doesn't work properly, no device will help. Only at Advent will you find every effective snoring and sleep apnea solution, along with a world-class team that can get your nose working properly again.
Go to adventknows.com to schedule your appointment, because Advent knows when you breathe well, you live better.
Let's talk about my future. Tomorrow's gonna be here before you know it. And so is the expense for me to go to college or trade school. Room and board, books, tuition, there's a lot of things to pay for. That's why it's important to start saving. Indiana 529 is a great way to save while getting tax advantages now. Visit myindiana529.com to start for as little as $10. We will both be happy you did. Please read the disclosure booklet carefully before investing. Sponsored by Indiana 529.
When it comes to your well, preventive maintenance is the key to reliable water. Right now, C&J is offering a 6-point annual inspection for only $250, so you will know if your well and water are in great shape for the coming months. C&J will check the flow, the switch, the pump, and the pressure tank, and then they'll check for leaks and bacteria too. If it's been a while since you've checked the well, just do it. You can also save 10% on any necessary repairs. C&J Well Company, they're local, they're exceptional, they're affordable. 317-852-WELL.
Hey, John, why so glum?
I just got let go. The company's downsizing. This is the third time in the last 2 years. I'm done with this.
Have you thought about My Computer Career? I've heard they can train you for a career in IT in just a few months, including cybersecurity and the basics of AI. And you don't need prior training or experience. Now that's a recession-resistant career.
Wow, thanks. I'll check them out.
Go to mycomputercareer.edu and take the free career evaluation. mycomputercareer.edu. Financial aid is available for qualified students, including the GI Bill.
You've got a Pepto predicament, Beach Bum.
Hey, we're heading down to the beach. You coming?
Yeah, Dad. You coming?
I had a little too much to eat at the resort buffet. I need a minute. Oh, you overdid it. And now your beach vacation is giving you belly waves. Undo it with Pepto.
When you have nausea, heartburn, indigestion, upset stomach, diarrhea.
Pepto Chewables provide fast 5-symptom relief, so you can get back to making memories.
Let's go, Dad!
When you overdo it, undo it with Pepto. Use as directed. Keep out of reach of children.
Do gurgling pipes, running toilets keep you up at night? Become a member at Hope Plumbing and have the comfort of knowing you have a plumber on call. For only $8 a month, you get your own plumber on call, a 10% discount on all plumbing services, 1 free mainline cleaning, 1 plumbing safety inspection, all trip charges waived, and so much more. Being their friend has its benefits. Give Hope Plumbing a call. HopePlumbing.com.
I'm a veteran. My victory was admitting I had PTSD and getting help.
As America's veterans face challenges, DAV is there.
I no longer see it as a weakness, but as a sign of strength. I call it post-traumatic growth.
DAV provides a lifetime of support, helping veterans of every generation get the benefits they've earned.
I am a veteran. I lost both legs in Vietnam.
Every year, DAV helps more than 1 million veterans so they can reach victories great and small.
My victory was getting my benefits and a good education.
I'm a veteran. When I got out, I felt like nowhere was safe. My victory was finding the help I needed.
But there's more to be done and more victories to be won.
Thanks to DAV, now I feel like I'm human again.
Help support more victories for veterans. Go to DAV.org.
It's the Tony Kinnett Cast on 93 WIPC.
Welcome back to the Tony Kinnett Cast here on the Daily Signal and syndicated first on 93 WIBC. So, a little bit earlier this week, we talked about how to incite a riot. If you want to make it more easy for individuals on the far left to do the rioting, well, then, there are a few things you can do. Like, for example, being a city or state prosecutor that admits, you're not actually going to prosecute those who have engaged in the kind of riots and protests that were characterized in the Minneapolis or the Kenosha riots. Now, there's something I want to be very, very clear about. We should talk about the other side of things. If you're going to incite a riot, you're going to talk about also how to stop a riot. Let's talk about how to cover a riot. I'm going to give you all of the secret tips and tools of the trade that I used when I was in Chicago this last week on the ground. Some of the secret. If you are not watching the live stream, you're listening to the radio, you're listening on a podcast service this evening, you're going to want to go back later to the Daily Signal's YouTube. That's youtube.com/Daily Signal, or over on Twitter X to check this out. We're going to be looking at a lot of footage, a lot of photos. I'll try to describe them on air the best that I can, but I want to give you my biggest tip and tip the trade, and that is pattern recognition. Pattern recognition is the big secret. You might say, but Tony, that's not a secret at all. Correct. I'm not special. Nothing that I'm about to tell you is some groundbreaking, amazing Sherlockian Holmes nonsense. I noticed something very weird when Tim Kennedy from the Daily Signal and I, the camera and editing master genius, and I showed up to the Bodies Outside of Unjust Laws pro-Palestine, co-abortion protest on Sunday afternoon right before the DNC started. Now, what ended up happening was after we covered some of the speeches, and again, I'll actually be covering some of those speeches on a special episode very soon, we went to the front of the line, and I ended up accidentally kind of leading the protest out in front and ruined a whole lot of media article thumbnails. That's not what I'm talking about at the particular moment. Because while we were watching the speeches, and I was standing next to Julio Rosas from The Blaze, a master Riot cover, I noticed something kind of weird. That over to the side, there was this strange dude, this strange weirdo-looking guy in a black leather jacket who was wearing a beret. It was one of the, just one of the lamest things I've ever seen.
Movement for all of us. Our movement is one of the main reasons that you are now the Democratic.
So I'm going to mute her down. You can see him in the distance there. There's this weird guy. He's changing his beret out, leather vest, kind of chubby. Not exactly a good-looking fellow. And I thought, that's kind of weird. That's like too on the stereotype nose for like a communist protester rioter kind of guy. So I did a little more looking, zoomed in just a little bit, and I found some interesting things. See, he was actually changing his particular, let's say his ensemblage at that particular time, so that he would be able to put on a bicycle helmet. And you can see here on the photo, he's leaving his weird beret that, by the way, didn't fit his head, so probably bought that at the thrift store. He's wiping his head to the side, puts on the bicycle helmet, hikes up his britches, and oh, do you see that? Do you see that right in the back there? Oh yeah. oh, that's a baseball bat, or at least a shortened baseball bat of some sort for a club. Now, why, if you're going to a peaceful protest, would you bring a baseball bat with your baseball helmet? I can understand the helmet. You know, maybe you're afraid you're going to get assaulted. I had some individuals that were friends of mine that brought helmets as well. But the bat, that's just a little bit telling. Now, I posted these pictures online and I made fun of him because he's a huge dork. He's clearly chubby. He's not in any way, shape, or form ready to go up and do any kind of serious damage at any kind of a riot. And you'll see that in just a second. There's your foreshadowing. But I posted this online and was like, look at this dork, switching over from his beret to his bike helmet and baseball bat. As a couple of friends of mine pointed out, the leather jacket looks like it costs about $6. And then he came up to me next day. He didn't like that social media post. And so he showed up the next day at the next riot. And he came up and he said, hey, I saw your posts. I said, yeah, I know. I would hope so. They were on social media for all to see. I am exactly 0% undercover. And then he told me to take it down. And I said, no. And then he said he would hurt me. And I laughed in his face. Because the man's rocking the pear shape to the extreme, number one. Number two, I would be more than happy to embarrass him in front of God and everyone at the front of that march. And number three, because I don't know if you can tell this, I am not the world's darkest complected individual. That man makes me look like an Amazon goddess with how pale he is. If I slapped him too hard, I'm pretty sure he would get a melanoma. So, no. And he backed down immediately because, again, he's paper thin. And so he walks off and he's like, nyeh. And I thought that would be the last I saw of him. You know, that is how that stuff happens from time to time. And then, to my shock and amazement, to my awe, you might say, I saw him later that day messing around with the Chicago riot response and almost getting his face beaten in because he tried to stop Chicago riot police from arresting a person assaulting the police. Here's what that looked like. The riot police break away. Oh wait, who's that talking to the police?
Get back. Get back.
Oh.
How about that? You gotta wait to get back. Stop, pig!
Screw off, pig. These guys are such fools. All right. That's not the last time I saw him. And in fact, I was just going to, mention this guy during the special episode we've got coming up in a few days. And I was catching up on some news today, and guess what I saw from my friend Cassie Akiva over at the Daily Wire? Oh, that's right. Here is this fine, young, upstanding individual assaulting a lady that was walking close to Vivek Ramaswamy.
I don't know what exactly happened at the end there.
Oh! Really takes a grown man to swing a stick at a lady. So, there you go. So, by the way, that would be another crime to add to the list. Nothing like active assault and battery. And then if, we're just going to keep going, right before the show, I saw yet another clip, this one over from the Post-Millennial, and look who is telling the crowd to break the law, inciting a riot, which, you guessed it, is in fact another crime. Look who it is.
Let's do this.
Oh, let's do this. Let's do this, guys.
We are not afraid of it. We are not afraid of it. We are not afraid of it. We are not
Very brave.
We are not afraid of it. We are not.
So then he starts telling everyone to push. So pattern recognition, that's the key. When you see someone acting like an idiot and you can tell, boy, this guy's just going to be special, that's when you pull out the camera. That's when you can record it. Because you know what? If you follow your gut and really ugly, communist, stupid cosplay, swinging your stick around with your bike helmet, not even tough enough. By the way, I don't know if you were able to see the Chicago police officer whip out the wooden truncheon I've been talking about all week and post up. Man's got a chest 3 times as wide as that man's entire body. Look down at him. It was hilarious. I mean, seriously, cast a shadow on the poor guy. The only color the man's ever had on his skin. And he shrinked away like a violet. Yes, in larger numbers, these Antifa BLM protesters can be a very big problem. But your average basement communist is good for one thing and one thing only, and that's making fun of. So we're going to talk a little bit about the response to the Democratic National Convention up in just a moment. Stick around, don't go anywhere. This is the Tony Kinnett Cast on the Daily Signal, nationally syndicated, and first on 93 WIBC.
Are you ready to smell better naked? I'm Dr. Shannon Klingman, the OBGYN creator of Lumi, the whole body deodorant that's clinically proven to control odor for 72 hours on pits, feet, privates, and beyond. It's pH optimized to safely and effectively control odor anywhere you have it, but wish you didn't. Plus, it's proven to work better than a shower with soap alone. Whether you shower twice a day or 3 times a week, Lumi works better. And who doesn't want zero body odor? With over 200,000 5-star reviews, I'm so sure you're going to love it, or you can return it for free.
There's a special offer for listeners. Use code BETTER and get 15% off your first purchase with code BETTER, like the Lumi Starter Pack, Acidified Body Wash, or new Lumi Plus Sweat Control. That's LUME deodorant.com, code BETTER for 15% off your first purchase. Love it or return it for free. That's LUME deodorant.com, code BETTER to save 15% today.
People are talking about Window Nation. Their Window Nation customer, Vicky, says, we couldn't be happier. This was a great experience. She's just one of over 33,000 5-star reviews. That's because Window Nation is all about the value. And this August, they're giving you great value during the Window Nation anniversary sale. Right now, buy 2 windows, get 2 free, plus no interest or payments for 24 months. And if you act now, you'll get an extra $250 credit.
Window Nation values your satisfaction in their quality, service, and affordability. That's why they stand behind their windows with a lifetime warranty. Window Nation was also recently ranked highest on Forbes' list of best window installation companies. So you can trust Window Nation for high-quality, affordable windows. Hurry, this big sale ends August 31st. Schedule that in-home estimate right now at 866-90-NATION or visit windownation.com.
Are you a business owner or professional looking to make an impact towards a greater cause? If so, please join us for a powerful morning of hope and action at the Hope Starts Here breakfast on September 19th at Lucas Estates. I'm Pastor Nathan Peternell, and Life Church wants to invite you to join us in supporting the fight against sex slavery while partnering with Project Rescue. Enjoy a time of networking, a free breakfast, hear some inspiring stories, and learn how you too can make a difference. Together we can bring hope and freedom to those in need. For more information, go to lifechurchin.com.
Hi, it's T. Brian Hayes here from the Retirement Money Matters Show. You know, the retirement estate planning world today is much different from the past. In fact, there are several old, common, and understood retirement rules that no longer apply in today's retirement world, especially after the last few years. So join me on this weekend show as we discuss these old rules and inform you about the new updated rules, principles, and realities that must be followed. The Retirement Money Matters Show airs this Saturday morning at 6 a.m. right here on WIBC.
Terry Stacy here. Honey Baked Ham isn't just for the holidays. Stop in for lunch and choose from handcrafted sandwiches, salads, soups, and more. Or take home a heat and serve family meal that comes with a home-style main dish, sides, and rolls. Perfect for busy weekend nights and better than fast food. Have a special event this summer? Let Honey Baked cater with sandwich trays or a VIP buffet with all the extras. Honey Baked on West 96th Street in Indy or Greyhound Pass in Carmel makes it easy to serve something special any day of the year.
This is the story of the one. As a facility technician installing a new welding station, he knows getting the ventilation right is critical for safety. That's why when questions arise, there's Grainger. Grainger offers detailed technical product information online at his fingertips, so it's easy to find what he needs. Because when it comes to safety, having answers means he and his people can breathe a little easier. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Housing discrimination because of race, color, or national origin is against the law. If you believe you've experienced housing discrimination, contact HUD at hud.gov/fair housing.
It's the Tony Kinnett Cast on 93 WIBC.
Kinnett Cast here on 93 WIBC and the Daily Signal and a whole host of other fantastic stations around the country. It's a joy to be with you this evening. It is not a joy, however, if you are any of the serious pundits over on the left. And this brings us to the caffeine crash. We've had the sugar high for ages. And the sugar high is great at first. It feels amazing. You feel like you can run anywhere, go anywhere, do anything. And that's how a lot of people were covering the initial Kamala campaign. And now we have finally got to the caffeine crash. And the caffeine crash is an interesting, I guess, use of a phrase here. I'm trying to function as an analogy because it's not a physical just completely falling apart. When you get a caffeine crash, you just feel kind of awful, but on the outside you look okay. Whenever you start to lose that sugar crash, there's just some signs that you just don't have the energy to try anything new. And that is basically what's happened to the Kamala Harris campaign. We played at the beginning of the show the clip of her campaign manager sprinting away from the press. I am not going to assault your ears with the audio right outside of Air Force Two, just booming into the cameras. But Kamala Harris was asked this afternoon by a reporter, quote, "What's next?" And Kamala Harris responded, "Climbing up these stairs." No, I'm serious. She actually responded with, quote, "Walk up those stairs, period," end quote. Awkward laughter ensues. So that's what's next. There's nothing. There's nowhere to go from here. They've tried just about everything that they can. And you say, but they haven't tried everything. And you out there, I want you to tell me, what can Kamala Harris do to actually make her campaign more appealing to Americans that would align with the progressive identity that she's had the entire time that she's been in politics? Anyone out there? Anyone at all? Allison, if we get any calls at the WIBC number, which no one's supposed to call during the show, please let me know. That anyone out there thinks there's something Kamala can do. There's some way that she can be as progressive as she's been in her past and come out and improve the odds of her campaign. I want to hear it because there's nothing. The only thing she has right now is her strategy, because even on CNBC, even on left-leaning business and financial networks, whenever a senator is brought on now, as Elizabeth Warren found out today, the only things that she's brought forward in policy fashion are completely and utterly indefensible, so that Elizabeth Warren was just flabbergasted that she was roasted over the coals today. It was truly incredible. Take a look.
For 40 years, companies didn't know how to price gouge until 3.5 years ago when President Biden was elected. Where was the price gouging caught? We had 40-year highs in inflation. Where was the price? They just learned how to do this 3.5 years ago?
No, the difference is prices were not going up. And as I said, prices started going up for a whole host of reasons. Prices went up because of the pandemic. Prices went up because of supply chain kinks. Prices went up because of the war in Ukraine. Prices were going up.
Okay, so a few fun things here, because everyone knows that's complete bullcrap, as the host points out. Kamala Harris says price gouging was just all of these businesses. They're like, we're going to price gouge people. And then that's completely silly, because all of the different businesses and corporations around the country did not all meet together in a big room and agree to increase prices along the same percentage point. That's not a thing. That's silly. That's stupid. And price controls by the government have failed every time they've been tried. But Warren's like, well, actually, it was the war in Ukraine that made gasoline pumped in Oklahoma and Texas more expensive. I don't know what I'm doing here. Help. Actually, it was the pandemic and supply chain issues. Hey, excuse me. Hey, who was the Secretary of Transportation during the supply chain crisis? Oh, that was Buttigieg from the Biden administration. Oh, okay, thanks. Yeah, it's not going well at all. And as soon as the Harris campaign gets anywhere near policy, they're completely screwed. So they've tried to toe the line between, we're sort of like outsiders, but we're also sort of the incumbent, experienced individuals. Ain't gonna work, guys. It ain't gonna work, because the American people voting know she's been in office for the last 4 years. And if she's running as an outsider, then she has to have some kind of new policy to put forward. And every time she's even come halfway close to almost a little bit revealing policy plans, she comes out with unrealized capital gains taxes, which is insane. The idea that you could be taxed for stocks that you haven't even cashed out on yet, things that you haven't even made money on, being taxed on the idea that you might make money is just nuts. And then government price controls, which have failed not only every time they've ever been tried, but have completely ruined every economy they've ever touched, like leprosy. So Trump, on the other hand, is now actually finding his way into his groove. I may also point out, this is the worst time for the Democrats for Trump to find his groove. Trump's been in awkward land for the last couple of weeks, because after Biden was Caesared out of the race, Trump had a little bit of trouble staying on topic with something that worked. He tried the same strategy that had worked against Biden, character attacks, against Kamala Harris, and it didn't work because everyone already knew Biden's policies. And so then you could shift over to character attacks and it would season and flavor his policies. Kamala is not directly associated in every American's mind yet with her policies, although she's starting to. Now Trump is finally starting to hit events and policies, and if this actually carries through, it will be brutal come election time. Check it out.
It's a weird thing. He got 14 million votes and he's sitting on a beach angry as hell. And she got no votes and she's running. So you explain that to me.
I mean, that's got all of the stuff that makes Trump a valuable candidate. It's funny. It's pretty relaxed. It's not actually him kind of doing his rally shouting. It's him just kind of being quiet and sarcastic. Look, Biden got a bunch of primary votes. People voted in a primary for the Democratic Party. People participated in the democratic process. And now Kamala has been appointed the next nominee. No one voted. And you might say, well, I'm sorry, but we actually voted for the Biden-Harris ticket. And so actually the vice president, it's okay if they step up to become the president. Guys, that's not how it works. The vice president and the president are two different, separate, clear, distinct candidates in a race. The 25th Amendment thing, that didn't kick in until the 40s, guys. The idea that, oh, well, the vice president just naturally waltzes right on up and they're just the same as the president. No. Just because the word vice is in front of it does not mean that it's just someone that you can slide right in, click it in like you're locking in a bolt. No. Now it works like that since there's been precedent established in constitutional amendments which refine it. Nothing says that about candidates. Nothing at all says that about candidates. You actually have to get a number of signatures to establish vice presidency in a series of national and state level functions in different ways than you do the presidential candidate for that party. And so the idea that Kamala just slides right on up like the Cupid shoved a slide right up. No, it doesn't work like that, guys. That is not how that works. And so that line of attack, along with calling her, he's finally found his nickname for it's Comrade Kamala, that works. That is functional. Because her policies are from the top down statist. And again, you could actually get Joe Biden on stage and he could articulate why the very progressive leaning position that he had, he could kind of frame it in 90s labor Democrat language because he's used to doing that his whole life. Kamala has never, ever once been able to make an excuse for why a policy is more moderate than it sounds. This is Kamala's weakness. This is where the caffeine crash becomes a full-on 5-car collision. This is the key. That Kamala lacks one skill that Hillary Clinton, Joe Biden, and Barack Obama had in spades, which is where you can take someone saying, isn't this kind of communist? Isn't this kind of socialist? Isn't this kind of extreme and radical? Isn't this nuts? And they would be able to say, well, actually, we don't mean what you're characterizing. And then they would dig into this long, drawn-out, spaghettified argument that would somehow make them appear moderate. Kamala can't do that. Because all she does is cackle and laugh, and then start talking about feelings and then circular reasons her way to the end of the sentence. She did this the entire speech last night. She got out in front of everyone and talked about her mom, telling her very basic value, like she's reciting poetry and Hallmark cards. No, that's not actually going to resonate. It's not going to hold up to any kind of disciplined campaign strategy. So now when I talk about the field being wide open, all Trump has to do is not lose. That's it. The caffeine high is over. The honeymoon period is over. RFK Jr. took a page out of the DNC playbook and shivved Kamala. Democrats and absolutely shivving their lead opponents. A tale as old as time. Beast and the Beast, because let's face it, not really a whole lot of beauties in that particular party. Just special. Well, up next, we're going to be digging into the Mail Time segment. There's a lot of great stuff y'all have sent in this week. We're going to touch on it. It's the Tony Kinnett Cast here on the Daily Signal, nationally syndicated first to 93 WIBC.
Tony Katz.
We assume that you have one of those kind of soaking tubs.
Oh, you're talking about like up at the Coco Motel. The Kokomo there.
The Coco Motel?
Yep.
Please tell me there's a real place called the Coco Motel.
There is, yeah. I don't know if it's still there or not, but it used to be.
How was I not notified?
How have you not stayed there?
The Coco Motel?
Yeah.
Do you ever wonder how we're still on the air?
No.
Tony Katz, mornings 6 to 9 on 93 WIBC and WIBC.com.
If you can plan barbecues and weddings, you can plan to protect yourself from a natural disaster. Sign up for local alerts, prepare an emergency kit, and make a family communications plan. Get started at ready.gov/plan.
Brought to you by FEMA and the Ad Council.
Are you within 5 years of filing for Social Security? Get this, 96% of Americans, 96% forfeit an average of $111,000 in Social Security income, and it's all because, unfortunately, they file for their benefits at the wrong time. Learn how you can avoid this with a free customized Social Security analysis. It's from Bill Demery, your retirement guy right here in Indy.
So if you've saved more than $200,000 for retirement and have not yet filed for Social Security, schedule that free analysis right now by calling Bill Demery, 317-648-5120. Bill Demery. For some people, filing for Social Security early could result in more net income in retirement. The free analysis pinpoints exactly how you could get the most income from Social Security. Bill Demery, 317-648-5120. That's 317-648-5120.
The deals keep coming at Andy Moore Ford in Plainfield. Tony Katz here at Andy Moore Ford. The people, the selection, the service, everything you want. Shop their wide selection of certified pre-owned vehicles, all marked with more savings, so you can be sure you're driving home with the best deal. And their commercial truck center is currently undergoing big changes, which means bigger and better things for you coming soon. Stop by today. Check out every vehicle they have on the lot and all the electric vehicles they've got. The Mustang Mach-E, the E-Transit, and that F-150 Lightning, all in stock with more arriving daily. The all-electric F-150 Lightning has you covered with seating up to 5, intelligent backup power, and onboard power for all your tools and gear. And they've got the incentives, the rebates, the federal, the state incentives that can save you up to $7,500 instantly on site. Talk to Andy Moore Ford in Plainfield about your new car, your new truck, or your new electric vehicle. Andy Moore Ford, M-O-H-R.
I love Andy.
AndyMooreFord.com. When it's time to renovate, it's time to call Booher, B-O-O-H-E-R, BooherRemodeling.com, because it's about the process. It's about dealing with professionals who are with you every step of the way, communicating how things work. The best craftsmen and professionals who have been doing kitchens and bathrooms in Indianapolis for 2 decades. Talk to Booher Remodeling today about how they work and why it will work for you and your new kitchen. Call 317-852-5546, 852-5546, or online at Booher, B-O-O-H-E-R, BooherRemodeling.com.
Remember the big bad wolf? Michaelis does. Because around here, all that huffing and puffing and blowing houses down stuff comes in the form of rain, wind, and hail. And no matter what your structure is made of, Michaelis is made of first responders and craftsmen who can restore it to better than new condition. Water, storms, fire, and wet basements. Life happens. Michaelis happens to help you through it. Call 844-FIX-INDY. Make it Michaelis.
Indy Humane, committed to helping Central Indiana's pets in need since 1905. Find your new best friend today. IndyHumane.org.
1 in 6 seniors faces the threat of hunger, and millions more live in isolation. Drop off a hot meal and say a quick hello. Volunteer for Meals on Wheels by donating your lunch break at americaletsdolunch.org. This message brought to you by Meals on Wheels America and the Ad Council.
It's the Tony Kinnett Cast on 93 WIBC.
Welcome back to the Tony Kinnett Cast here on 93 WIBC. It's time for everyone's favorite segment. It's just a real treat to get into. Sometimes we have things you want to say, some things you want to yell at people. And on this show, we don't do voicemails. We don't have you call in live because I don't trust any of you at all. We have, just a little something that we like to call Mail Time. Mail time. Now, mail time works like this, because I've gotten a few questions actually about how mail time works. So go figure, little inception double mail time there. You send in a question over at TonyKinnett.com. We've got a great place for you just to fill something out, get it all sent in, and then producer Lou looks at the questions, and I look at the questions, and we decide what kind of fit the theme of the week and which ones are especially mean and which ones are especially funny, and we throw those in immediately. And then we try to get us through as many of them as we can as possible. So, without further ado, let's get to Rick's first question. He says, why haven't the United States Special Ops gone into Gaza to get the Americans out? Okay, the quick answer to this is because the United States does not actually have the foreign policy of a grown man. So, the way that you should fight a war is if someone takes an American citizen, you get them back. You get them back using whatever means is possible. If that means U.S. troops, correct. The United States should have completely wiped through Gaza ourselves, not because of Israel, but because there are American citizens that are being held hostage. That's it. That's the whole reason. You say, but Tony, what if they kill the terror? I'm sorry. Whenever there was a hostage held by an American in America, the police don't say, well, we'll get them if they ever get out of there. No, the SWAT team surrounds the house until they either let them go or they go in and they kill every single one of the hostage holders. Those are American citizens. I don't care what ethnicity they are. I don't care what religion they are. I don't care what it is. I don't care. They have done no crimes of any sort whatsoever. They're not held by a state police force for committing some kind of a crime. And even then, a little bit testy on whether a foreign power should be able to hold an American citizen. Either your citizenship means something or it doesn't. So should the U.S. Special Forces have gone into Gaza to get the Americans out? No. The Army, the Air Force, and the Navy should have leveled Gaza to the ground and gone in themselves to each and every tunnel to get the Americans out. Because either your citizenship entitles you to the protection of the United States around the globe or it doesn't. Period. That's just the way it is. And that kind of philosophy has been around for a very, 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 very long time. Because the price of an American citizen as a philosophy is infinitely more important. As, by the way, as a species, we do this, as humanity. So there will be someone drowning in a river, and people will die in the process of trying to rescue them. That is the base level of human compassion. No man hath greater love than this, than a man would give his life for his brother. And question number 2. This is with Kamala running for president. Win or lose, can she certify the election vote? Seems like a conflict of interest to me. Please explain how she can certify the election if she even still does. Okay, so the answer to that question is that the vice president certifying the election is the most perfunctory rubber stamp thing in human history. The idea that the vice president has to sit there in the vice president executive suite and like scratch their beard or their warbly chin in Kamala's case and certify the electoral votes, it's a rubber stamp, guys. It is. The idea that Pence should have actually made some kind of a different decision or that the vice president needs to sit down and deliberate all this other stuff. No. Nope. That's not a thing. Sorry. The vice president approves what the states have. The vice president should not have the power to overrule the states of the United States of America. States have the ability to allot electoral votes. The vice president can't just wipe those away because a personal or political party doesn't like it. I wouldn't like it if the left do it. The right shouldn't be doing that either. All right, next. This is from Dan. Why is the Navy moving resources to the Middle East when China is threatening Taiwan with its war machines? There was a great answer to this. The United States Navy could face every other Navy on this entire planet at once and only the Pacific Squadron or only the Atlantic Squadron or fleet and walk away from it unscathed. The United States Navy is the greatest Navy in the history of humanity. It so abysmally dwarfs the rest of the country. You say, well, China's got a lot of boats. Yes. Have you ever seen Chinese construction of anything? Do me a favor. Go to a thing called Live Leak this evening after the kids have gone to bed because it's not always the least gruesome things. Watch half of the Chinese construction that occurs. That's state-sponsored construction 9 times out of 10. They pour concrete without rebar. That's no support. Their ships leak and go to the bottom of the ocean very quickly. They're made out of like tin. I'm sorry. China, Russia's navy's a joke. The UK's navy, even compared to like our NATO allies, their navies are jokes. The United States Navy reigns supreme. We could cut our Atlantic fleet in thirds, send a third of it over to take China completely out, and in the time it would take to sail around the bottom of South America or through the Panama Canal and get to China, it would remove China from the face of the earth in half the time it took to sail there. Just saying. And by the way, I cheer for the Army come the Army-Navy game, but that's just the truth. So as far as like splitting up our naval resources, no. The United States is not doing everything it should be in regard to building up its Navy. This was a huge issue during the early Republican primary debates, and it should continue to be talked about. But I'll say this, I don't care if it's DeSantis, Haley, Trump, I don't care if it's George W., I don't care if it's Mitt Romney. The United States Navy is going to continue to grow as long as there is a Republican in government, and even Democrats find it hard to squelch the U.S. Navy. It's unchallenged. Smashing radical Muslim groups in the Middle East since the freaking early 1800s. God bless America. That's the end of our show for today. Have a wonderful weekend. Spend your time away from technology. I know I will. We'll be back here on Monday. This is the Tony Kinnett Cast on the Daily Signal, nationally syndicated and first to 93 WIBC.